I don't have a PowerPoint. I'll blame Bob Poole for that, because he's kept my nose to the grindstone on the latest Reason project that I've been working on as well. I split my time between being a journalist and being a think tanker, perhaps. And I grew up in England and Australia, and I left Australia when it was in a totally hopeless situation, and there were no roads being built at all, and all the cities were getting bogged down in congestion. Everything's improved enormously since I left, I have to tell you, and they've done some amazing things there, and they've completely transformed the political climate and the attitude to mobility. They've really got serious and practical after having several decades of ideological commitment to trying to get people out of their cars and into trains, and they built a lot of train systems, and they also attempted, they thought that they didn't need expressways or freeways, that they could use intelligent transportation systems to get the throughput in arterial roads, and they developed the world's best signal optimizing systems, extremely good ones, which are sold internationally. The Sydney Cooperative, I forget the name, it's got an acronym, but it starts with Sydney Cooperative, and it's to do with, it optimizes the use of traffic signals to get you the maximum green time, and they probably, in Sydney and Melbourne, they had some of the greatest throughputs on signalised arterials that have ever been achieved in the world. And of course they also developed complete commercial blight through those corridors, and all the businesses faded away and degenerated into tattoo shops and pawn shops and one thing and another. Because of course you have no parking, you have almost no turns, and so they realized the folly of that. And also signal optimization can only optimize green time. I mean, if you think about it, just the essentials of what optimizing signals between different directions of traffic are, they only help you to the extent that they can find some wasted green time in one of the directions and reallocate it immediately to the other. Now, once you get past that, you might as well just go back to dumb fixed time signals. And so that's what they did. And then they realized that they would have to build some expressways. But meanwhile, the environmentalist governments had sold off any land which was reserved for expressways and freeways on the surface, so they had to go underground to a large extent in both Melbourne and Sydney, the two biggest cities, and now they're doing it in Brisbane too. And in order to do that, they had to enlist investors, because there was no way people would pay the taxes to support this. So they kind of stumbled in a way into what we're starting to do, and what I think we need to do, which is to I came here in 1980 and as a journalist, and floundered around after the publication I worked for got closed down. I floundered around for a couple of years, and then discovered through freelancing, through a piece in Forbes magazine, that there was an enormous interest in toll roads. So I thought at the age of 50 that I'd make that my niche subject. And so I've been trying to keep up with that for about the last 12 or 13 years. And Reason's been kind enough to employ me on a number of their projects. I just wanted to briefly say something about some of the technology developments in the last year. Because technology, the toll transponder on the windshield that communicates by radio signal with an antenna above the roadway, has transformed the toll industry. It's meant that you don't need to have people stopping to pay their tolls. First, the retrofit of electronic tolling into existing toll plazas has usually meant what we call roll-through tolling, where you still have to queue up and get into a single lane and go through. But now all the major toll roads are converting to open road free flow tolling to take advantage of this. And this technology now takes 60% of the tolls in America, and there's about 25 million of these on windshields. And the proportion of tolls that are taken increases steadily, and I think I predict within 5 or 10 years we'll have almost no significant cash toll collection, because if you think about it, cash is going out even in retailing. You swipe your credit card mostly to get your gas, and in the supermarket now too, and even Starbucks and even McDonald's, I think, are starting to. The last holdout of cash really has been the fast food places and the 7-Elevens perhaps, but I think a lot of the 7-Elevens now do. So since the most irritating thing about tolling has been stopping and queuing after having being able to drive at beautiful high speed in a free flow situation, then coming up to Barrier Plaza, that has been far more irritating to most people than the actual cost of the payment itself. And the other thing is that once you have one of these, you don't think about tolling even every time you go through. I mean, you don't need to. If the thing's up there, if you're driving on a daily basis, you think about the tolls when you get your monthly bill. But, you know, it's a monthly bill. It's usually less than the electricity and other things. It's less than it's about the same as the cable TV, perhaps. It's about the same as the cable TV. Well, you know, you'd rather not pay it, but you get a service in return, and the service is much enhanced now, since you don't have that toll plaza, that troublesome toll plaza. So now the Illinois Tollway, in the last year we've seen major advances, particularly in the Chicago area, which had the worst congestion from toll plazas in the country. They've gone from the worst to the best now. Well, they will have done by the end of the year. They will have had all 20 mainline toll plazas in the Chicago area opened up with 3 or 4 lanes in each direction for complete free flow travel with a transponder. And you've had, of course, transponder use rise from about 40% to close to 80% in Illinois. They also raised the cash toll, but not the transponder toll, which helped a huge amount, of course, as well. The price incentive was very important. But the other thing is that the toll road in Illinois has actually become a political benefit for the administration there, whereas it used to be a huge liability. People felt so grouchy, and every time they thought about the tollway, they felt grouchy about it. And I think it's largely because of the queuing, of the irritation and the hassle and the unpredictability of the queues at the toll plazas. So that goes, and the elevated reversible that Bob mentioned there has open road tolling on it, so unlike the surface toll road underneath, so there's no waiting. You have to have a transponder in order to use that. But now where the last year has seen quite widespread movements towards open road tolling. I don't think it's going fast enough with the old toll roads, but it's happening. It's happened in Miami. It's happening in Orlando. They've got a plan in New Jersey. They've done a lot of the Garden State Parkway, and they've done the two ends of the New Jersey Turnpike. They've done quite a bit on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and so the major toll roads are doing it quite a lot. There's a problem with transponders. New technology is disorderly. It's often patented so that the inventors can get their money back, and so we have a number of incompatible systems. We have basically now, although they've sorted themselves out a lot, some of the very small minority systems that were initially used in Maine and in Illinois, the ATCOM systems have been abandoned, and they've gone in for the Easy Pass, which is 3/4 of the tolling in the United States is Easy Pass, and that comes up for rebid next year. Also, the The South has a quite separate system that originates from a firm in Texas as opposed to the Canadian one, which is the basis for Easy Pass. But that system and the California system do form, there's a distinct difference in the technologies of those two systems. So the feds have been pushing for a long time for a standardized transponder that's used universally throughout the US. And there's a beautiful, all bells and whistles prototype which has been finally developed after about 5 or 6 years that's even bigger than this actually. And this is about a $20, $15, $20, $25 product. Unfortunately, the one being supported by the Federal Highway Administration and the Joint Program Office for ITS is going to be in the range $60 to $120. It's heavier duty. It's got to be wired in because its power requirements are much greater. The big bane of these damn things is the batteries running down. They have long life batteries, but quite how long the life will be is unpredictable. It depends a bit on use, and it depends a bit on the climate. It depends a bit on luck, I think, too. And so they start conking out between 3.5, 4 years. Some of them last 6, 7, 8 years. So there's a great dilemma. And of course, once they conk out or get unreliable, it happened to mine. My Easy Pass one about 6 months ago. No, only a couple of months ago. And they work erratically. So, you know, sometimes you get a read and other times you're treated as if you violated. And this causes a lot of hassle and irritation, and it's expensive too because they've got to employ customer service people, they've got to respond and send you an old one, they have to get back they send you a new one, I'm sorry, they've got to make arrangements for you to send back the old one. It's a big hassle, it's an extra expense. So just when the federal government has this wonderful transponder that's bigger and has to be built into the car and the factory to be practical and so forth, industry has come up with this, the sticker tag. This costs less than $10. It can do everything this can do, and it also doesn't need a battery. It uses the energy of the incoming radio signal, modulates it, and bounces it back, and it can be just stuck on the windshield. Texas has been most advanced in adopting these, and they're being used 1/3 of the tolls now in the Houston area. For some damn reason, I don't know those Texans, they always seem to get in ahead of most other people, but they've bought a couple of million of them now.
Just for correction, Georgia was the first to implement those.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I apologize.
Having worked in Texas
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
I know.
Georgia 400 and Puerto Rico was very,
the first, and then
yeah. On the mainland, you were the first. Yeah, okay. Well, how do I get out of this one? They were the first very large toll system with a lot of toll roads to use them. Okay. And in fact, they use an even more advanced version than this because it's been improved since this initial one, and I don't have a sample of it. I got one, but the trouble with these things and keeping them as samples, I lose them all the time. You know, they're so small. They've got the chip in the middle here, and the rest is the antenna, and you can see the connection between the chip and the rest there. So, and of course these could be used for license plates, electronic license plates, in which case every car would be identifiable. You'd have to make sure that you have some legal controls in place as to how they were used, but if they're used, a car is is on a public facility, it's already identified, got its own unique identifier that you can see with your eyeball called the license plate. And so it's quite likely that something of this kind will be adopted as a license plate, and then, you know, the cops can pick up a murderer or a thief or whatever, if he's driving along by using an antenna or a reader that focuses on that particular license plate. Or they can use cameras. Cameras are quite integral to electronic tolling too, because of the fact that these have a certain number of non-reads. They don't work perfectly and the batteries run down, and these ones have their imperfections too, but they have a pretty high accuracy rate. So the license plate cameras are being used as a backup in cases where people with a transponder account, when it doesn't read properly. When I travelled with my erratic one, I found I got all the same toll bills, the same tolls on my bill, because they were able to use the cameras and they run the potential violators through the numbers, the list of all the account holders, and then that's what's sometimes called a video toll. But you can take that one stage further in terms of your business rules, and you can say, well, for a premium, you can drive on the road without a transponder at all, and we'll toll you via the license plate image. And in fact, the Central London congestion charge is done entirely on that basis with license plate reads. And the Australian toll roads do quite a bit of giving people what they call a day pass. If they'll call up ahead of time or by midnight of the day of the journey, give their license plate number and give a credit card or make other arrangements to pay, then they don't have to drive on the road with a transponder. And the 407 ETR in Toronto does the same thing. About 20% of their drivers drive on the road without a transponder. There's no cash collection on that road at all. It's a complicated toll road with 38 interchanges on it, 407 ETR, not a single toll collector, but it's open to people without transponders too, at a price. There's a good hefty premium, because they do lose more people due to defects in the mistakes and errors in the motor registry database, and people not notifying the motor registry of changes of address. So quite a number of their toll bills go astray for that reason, and also the data processing involved in managing the images is much greater than this. So there has to be a premium for video tolling, but we're now starting that in Texas. In a little place called Tyler, Texas, is the first place in America where there will be official video tolling. We have all these cameras in place everywhere except the few toll roads where the gate comes down. In New York City at the bridges and tunnels, and up on the Hudson River there are still some places where the gate, and some of the smaller slow toll bridges and causeways, you still have the gates come down. But most of our toll roads have gone for a number of years now without active gates going up and down. Once you do that, even without electronic tolling, you have to have a camera to get the picture of the bad guy who just rides through, or the confused person who gets in the wrong place. I'll shut up then. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.